Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday Training. I hope you're having a fantastic week. As always,
we are live from Austin, Texas, right here at Insurance Syndicate headquarters. And man, we have a great show for you.
good morning. Welcome to Tuesday Training. It is Tuesday. It's 9 a.m. and we are live right here in Austin, Texas from Syndicate headquarters, man. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I am back in the office full time, man. I've been traveling quite a bit. If you follow me on Facebook, you've seen that I've been all over the place, man. I've been having some fun in Colombia. I talked to you guys a little bit about that last week, I think. Obviously, Grace and I were touring the Caribbean coast of Colombia on the eastern side from Barranquilla all the way to basically Tayrona National Park. That was outstanding. Easily the best vacation I've ever been on. And then after that, turned around, ran up to Dallas, and gave a Medicare CE class for NABIP Dallas. That was a lot of fun. Got to hang out with some of those folks who I had never met. There was a lot of new faces up in that group that I hadn't seen before, even though I know a lot of the Dallas folks up there. And then I just got back Sunday from the Power Players Retreat with Cody Askin's group. We did a marketing mastery retreat. I think we had 35, 40 people there, something like that, and talked specifically about marketing, what we can do in our business to improve our marketing, whether it's paid ads, organic traffic, all kinds of stuff. Learned a few tricks. I got one trick I can't even talk about. We all agreed at the event. Don't tell anybody else about that one. That's a good one. And is definitely something that we're going to be implementing in our business to assist with retargeting. Certainly you can do retargeting with pixels and all of that stuff, which you need, but there are some other tools out there in the digital advertising paid ad land that will help you retarget way better than just Facebook will retarget. I was completely unaware of them. Cody made us aware, but he also made us vow not to tell you. So maybe you can take me out to lunch or something, buy me a drink, and then maybe I'll spill the beans. But until then, mum's the word. As always, this show is brought to you by DFY CRM, my CRM of choice. Hope you guys, if you don't have a great CRM, man, give my guy Eric a call. It is easily one of the best ones out there. And being at this marketing mastery retreat, to be honest with you, reinforced that for me quite a bit. Right. We had some other folks there talking about Agent CRM and some other tools that they're using. But I was very happy to know that I am absolutely enrolled in one of the best CRMs out there that I use for my business. It works terrific. Got all the tools that I need, and I've built out quite a few custom solutions. And as a matter of fact, we over here at Avila are working on a beautiful snapshot that we're going to build inside of DFY. And we might even make it available for all of you guys. We'll see. But I'm super excited to put that together. We are going to be working on that this month, ready for production release October 1st, right before AEP. And then we will be rolling it out probably some level of public by January 1, maybe sooner. We'll see. We're going to test it with some of our agents. I'm pretty excited about it. But it's basically a snapshot that I'm going to build inside of DFY myself. That we will be using for our group 100%. Other than that, man, there is a boatload of news that I want to talk to you guys about as we gear up for what is probably going to be the wildest AEP we've ever had. Last year was pretty wild. This year, I think, is going to be wilder. And I'll explain as I go through some of these news articles with you guys. But let's go ahead and dive right in. If you've got any questions about Medicare, etc., AEP, whatever it might be, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I can bring some of those up, but I want to talk about a few good items. Bear with me just a minute while I get this stuff on my screen. That is definitely not what I wanted to share first. This is what I want to share first. Check this one out. You may have heard about this already. Pretty large settlement. I don't know if it's settlement, but a pretty large decision made against CVS Caremark. Whistleblower basically blows the top off on it and says that CVS, particularly the pharmacy benefit manager within CVS, has been frauding Medicare. Whether they've been doing it on purpose or not necessarily matters. But they were ordered to pay $290 million in fines back to Medicare after this little scheme was exposed. Going through the article, you'll see it right here. A federal judge has ordered CVS Health's pharmacy benefit manager Caremark to pay nearly $290 million after a whistleblower accused the business of overcharging Medicare on prescription drugs more than a decade ago. Sarah Banky, former Aetna actuary, alleged that Caremark defrauded Medicare Part D by causing false drug reports to be submitted in 2013 and 2014. They were found liable in June in Philadelphia federal court. Chief Judge Mitchell Goldberg ordered the company to pay $95 million in damages, deferring final rulings on penalties. Goldberg, who was appointed by former President George Bush, tripled the damages on Tuesday, finding Caremark RX and Caremark Part D services should pay a total of $289.9 million in damages and penalties, according to court documents. He also imposed $4.87 million in civil penalties. Says that we are pleased that the Banky ruling in June was in our favor as to certain issues for CVS Pharmacy and CVS Health Corporation's liability, and disappointed that the court found against Caremark on other issues. We plan to appeal. Basically says that in 2014, Caremark was accused of manipulating how drug costs were reported, prompting Aetna and SilverScript to submit false direct and indirect remuneration reports in 2013 and 2014. The scheme, which was alleged designed to hide profits, led to Medicare Part D being overbilled by $95 million. Going on, Caremark argued that the 513 false reports submitted did not justify penalties exceeding $95 million. However, Goldberg disagreed, said that $95 million loss was certainly significant and therefore justifiable to go ahead and treble it up to $289 million. So, wow. And speaking of lawsuits, this one just came in. You probably have already seen this one. You may remember a couple of years ago, right? There was a big CMS final rule proposal to basically wipe out the whole top level hierarchies, right? They were going to limit all overrides to basically something like $100 or something ridiculous like that. And it would pretty much wiped out the whole FMO structure. Well, a lot of us argued. We wrote our congressman, AmeriLife sued, Integrity sued, bunch of stuff. And then just recently, a Texas judge overturns that final rule and says, no, CMS is overstepping their bounds. The article written in Healthcare Dive says that Reed O'Connor's ruling is a setback for smaller MA plans and efforts to curb predatory marketing to seniors. The smaller MA plans would argue that they cannot be as effective in gaining market share because they don't have the money to spend in giving co-op dollars to agents, brokers, FMOs, etc., that those dollars can then be used to go advertising and write business. And they say that again with the guys that if a larger company like, say, a Humana or United Healthcare or whoever is going to provide marketing dollars, then those agencies, FMOs, distributors, agents, whoever, are likely to steer in the direction of Humana, feeling an obligation that, well, they gave me those marketing dollars, I need to write it there. I would argue that probably a large portion of agents actually don't give a crap about steering to any specific carrier, but they will gladly take those marketing dollars and then use them to write whatever the best business is for that client. That is certainly the way we operate, 100%. I always get marketing dollars every year. But regardless of the carrier that I get them from, I absolutely 100% will not purposely steer people to try and buy that carrier. I don't feel any obligation that because Humana gave me $5,000 or because Aetna gave me $10,000 or whatever it may be for AEP that I have to use that specifically to market their carrier. Some people would argue that, hey, Tony, that's not very reputable from you. You're going to take their money and then just go write whatever business you want. Well, that's the case. I'm not allowed to steer. I'm not supposed to steer. Now, if I wanted to, the best thing that I could do would be to take those marketing dollars and maybe run some specific sales events for Humana or for United Healthcare, or whoever's giving me that marketing money. That would probably be the most reputable thing to do, right? Go run an AEP marketing for Humana with their dollars that they're using. I can get that. That makes sense to me. But I generally prefer to throw it in my all-in marketing budget and then let that business come in and write what sees fit. Regardless, I generally still get the business for the carriers anyway. But that's that. But going back through this, you may remember this was ponied up as a final rule proposal. I believe it was in 2024 as something to vote on for 2025. In 2025, it was basically pushed, right? They put a stay on it and made no decisions. And then if you saw the final rule this year, they didn't address any of it. They didn't say a single word in the entire final rule that was dropped earlier this year about this whole topic of marketing dollars, TPMO to TPMO, and all of that stuff, right? Didn't say a single word. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, I did a show on it. The CMS final rule this year was pretty much a kind of a nothing burger. All they did was basically codify some of the stuff within the Inflation Reduction Act, right? Continued that on, made a couple of other minimal rulings regarding reporting from carriers back. And that was pretty much it. And they didn't address any of this because certainly I guess they couldn't because it was going through a giant lawsuit. But like I said, the federal judge has vacated a Biden-era rule that would have curbed Medicare Advantage payouts to agents and brokers, which is not even fully a correct statement because the money was not necessarily towards us. Like we're already getting a flat managed rate at the agent level, right? Every agent makes $626. It's going up to $694 next year. Probably the biggest pay increase we've ever gotten. But at the higher levels, there is no standardized payouts, right? And I've argued this before that I disagree with that. I think that if the agent is only going to make X dollars, regardless of which carrier they write, then I'm kind of the opinion that the FMO or the NMO at the very top level should also have a cap, right? And they should only make X amount of override no matter which product is being sold by their agents in the downline. However, that does not exist, and that was not what they were going after in this. What they were going after, again, was the entirety of overrides that exist between agent and top level, and then certainly marketing dollars and reimbursements and all of those things, saying that no, agents can only get paid this. They can't get reimbursed for leads. They can't get reimbursed for travel. They can't get reimbursed for CRM and any of these other things. Regardless, and that was terrible, like for them to do that. We all know that would have wiped out the FMO hierarchy structure, really put a damper on it. And those guys are designed to support us, and they do a great job as a collective. Certainly some are better than others. So they wiped that out. That rule is gone. So for the most part, we can all believe that this AEP from that perspective is going to be business as it always has been, right? So chances are you will likely see some co-op dollars this year of some sort. However, even though we're allowed to get co-op dollars still, I don't know that the carrier is going to be paying them out at the levels that they were previously. Carrier money is tight. As we know, I'm going to hit another article here in a minute that's going to talk about that, how carriers are having to pull back in the MA space a bit. So even though there probably will be some co-op dollars out there, I wouldn't expect them to be as abundant as they have been in the past. Before we jump into that, let's look at some more lawsuits. Check this one out. Elevance Health loses their bid to challenge the U.S. Medicare star ratings. This has been a big issue for a few carriers. A couple of them won their bids on this, right? United Healthcare won and was able to get a reevaluation on their star ratings. Elevance lost. I believe Scan, if I remember correctly, they won their lawsuit on the star ratings adjustments. And Humana, which is in another article, is actually, they lost as well, but they are appealing it through another lawsuit. But pretty simple. Judge sides with the Health and Human Services in the challenge to Elevance contracts ratings. Elevance has said that the rating will cost the company $375 million. Right? But a federal judge in Texas on Tuesday rejected Elevance's challenge of the U.S. government's calculation for the health insurer star ratings for at least some of its government-backed Medicare plans after the company said improper rounding cost them at least $375 million. And if you're not sure how that happens, right, star ratings generate incentives and generate money. The higher your star ratings are, the more money you get from the government to run your plan, because obviously you've got a great plan, so we want to reward it. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle. You generate a 4 or 5 star plan, you get more money. You can use that to put it back in your plan to maintain it at 4 and 5 stars in those higher rankings, right? But they recreated the star ratings recently. And when they recreated how they calculated them, a lot of the carriers lost money because their star ratings aren't as high as they have been in previous years. So they're not getting those bonus payments, hence all the lawsuits. So again, some carriers have won. Elevance lost theirs. And Humana right here says they are refiling their ratings challenge. Theirs was thrown out as well. They had introduced a lawsuit challenging its star ratings, right? Again, District Judge Reed O'Connor dismissed the case without prejudice, said that Humana had not exhausted all of its administrative appeal options when it first filed the case. So they originally lost. They are refiling it again to go after it. Pretty simple. Moving along, this should be something that we all like, but it's also a little bizarre in some cases. A group called Chapter, chapter.org, you can check them out. They are working in collaboration with Nuvo Health and Spark Advisors, and they are taking a stand against restrictive Medicare industry practices with the launch of the Agent Freedom Pledge. What the hell is the Agent Freedom Pledge? Well, it's a commitment to let Medicare agents work with the agency they want and where their values align without delay or penalty. In other words, they're pushing to get all these organizations in the space to provide immediate releases when asked by an agent, right? Says here, participating Medicare organizations commit to grant an immediate release upon request of any individual agent, ending the practice of holding advisors captive in agencies they wish to leave. Releases work like non-competes for agents who are hourly employees or 1099 contractors, limiting their ability to move to a new agency that may better align with their ethics or work preferences. The pledge also encourages pre-releases for new agents, making it easier to switch affiliations when necessary. Now, as someone who believes in open releases, I don't necessarily like where they're going with this because they're pushing it as an all-in-one solution. And there's no absolutes in this business, and there shouldn't be an absolute requirement to release all agents. There are situations I believe that, and I would support, in which agents probably shouldn't get a release, right? Most anybody out there that I've spoken to that will honor an open release policy, they all have the same caveat. As long as that agent doesn't owe me any money, right? As long as they haven't generated any debt, I'm happy to release them. I could get behind other situations too. Like if you have an agent, maybe you spend 6 months with them and you spent a ton of money getting them trained, getting them onboarded, depending on all the things you may have paid for them, things like their E&O, their license fees, their CRMs, everything, right? As say an LOA type employed or W-2 agent. And then for whatever reason, that doesn't work out. I could see some supportive argument in there on not giving that person a release, at least for a period of time. You spend all this money recruiting them, getting them going. They've had 6 months, maybe a year to investigate your system. They've learned things about you that are probably proprietary, and they just get a free release to go on and take all of that knowledge and go somewhere else and make that next guy money. I can see some argument against that. But when it comes to the true independent agent, the person that works for themselves, right, and they're working through an FMO, one, just to get access to contracts, two, maybe get some mentorship, guidance, tools and systems, like quoting engines or access to Sunfire or Connecture, things like that. But ultimately, all of their commissions are paid directly to them, and they own their business and operate pretty much as at least a self-employed agent, if not a business, an agency, depending on how far they've gone through that licensing and structuring process. Those agents, I believe, absolutely give those guys a full release 100% of the time. Again, as long as they don't owe you any money. And that's always been my philosophy. That was our philosophy at Precision Senior Marketing. We were pretty much the first large NMO out there. Matter of fact, we were the first large NMO out there to honor and push for open releases, putting them in writing before that agent would even contract with us. But then you get in this space where you have W-2s or you have LOAs, that the relationship is a little bit different. It's a little more nuanced than that. And I don't know that a blanket open release pledge is the right way to go with that. But, I think ultimately holding people captive, preventing them from growing in the business is to their detriment. But there needs to be some nuance or some caveats in there for it. I'll give you an example on why I believe in open releases, particularly in the independent agent broker category, right? Is because we as brokers, as agents, agencies, recruiters, whatever, the contract says, your contract with the carrier, whether it's Mutual, Omaha, United Healthcare, whoever, it all says that you're an agent of the company. And I've talked about this before because people think, oh, I'm an agent of the client. Not really. I mean, you are, but contractually in your carrier contract, it says that you are an agent of the company. So follow me here. If I'm an agent of the company, and John agent no longer wants to work with me on, say, again, Mutual of Omaha, just as an example, because I'm wearing the shirt today. And I don't release John to take his Mutual Omaha contract elsewhere, then I am preventing John from writing Mutual Omaha at all, which means I'm not acting in the best interest of Mutual of Omaha now. Now I'm only acting in my own selfish interest, which is against my contract. I mean, a carrier could easily argue, in my opinion, that you're in breach of contract. Although Mutual Omaha is certainly one of those carriers that will protect you for 6 months and require agents to either not write business or get that release. But I could see how they could argue that you're in breach of contract if you're going to stand in the way of another agent going out and writing business and helping us be profitable. Interesting. But nonetheless, you can check this one out. Medicare Advisors launched Agent Freedom Pledge, and they are going around pushing on organizations to try to get everybody to sign this pledge and make an open release world for all agents. Fairly interesting. Moving along, we got some changes coming in Medicare. These are 7 of the changes that are coming in 2026 that you may or may not already be aware of. I would think most of these you probably already know what's going on, but we're going to run through them real quick and then get into a few other things. I'm not going to go through this whole article. I'm just going to get through the items that are changing. Number 1, codification of the Inflation Reduction Act 2022. Not much is changing here. They're pushing it forward, but there are a couple of things. Number 1, the Trump administration declined to cover GLP-1 receptor agents, Ozempic, things like that, unless they are used for specifically diabetes, not weight loss, as an example. So that was ponied up and supposed to start next year, that Ozempic and all of those, even if you were using them for weight loss, you could get Medicare coverage for them. But no, Trump administration said, nope, we're going to stop that, right? The other thing they did support, or there's a few other things they did support other than the bill for the most part, price negotiations, which actually start next year on the top 100 drugs. The only other thing that they really did in the Inflation Reduction Act in their final rule this year was they updated some reporting mechanisms for how the carriers have to report back on some of the things that are going on. Other than that, the only other rule change within the IRA is that we know that next year, the cap on total out-of-pocket drug expenses is going up $100. It'll be $2,100 instead of $2,000 as it is this year. Prescription payment plan updates. No real changes here, but the big thing is that there will be automatic re-enrollment. So if you have a client that is in the MPPP, the 12-month payment program right now, that will automatically re-enroll them next year. Now, if they decide to opt out, CMS requires plan sponsors to process that opt-out request within 3 calendar days rather than initially proposed 24-hour. So they're trying to reduce a little administrative burden there. Fairly simple. Number 2, I already kind of mentioned this, but the cap on Part D prescription drug expenses is going to go up to $2,100. Not a huge change, but it is another $100, especially considering that Part D plan costs are going up next year too, in a lot of ways. Not all the carriers, not all the plans, but a lot of the plans are going to go up in cost again. Number 3, Medicare Part D deductible is going up, right? Most people just talk about Part A and Part B, but Part D deductible is going up. It is currently $590. It is jumping $25 to $615. Not an enormous change, but again, it's more money, right? And we're already pushing on seniors hard. And I'm going to get a little later, if you stick around towards the end of the show, we're going to look at a new report from Kaiser Family Foundation regarding income for Medicare beneficiaries. And I think you'll find some stuff in there that is slightly surprising. So yes, the cost of Medicare are, as they pretty much always do, sometimes more than other years, they're going up. So the Part D deductible is going up to $615 over $590. Other than that, everything else pretty much maintains the same. Number 4, the limit on special supplemental benefits for the chronically ill on Medicare Advantage. This has been a hot topic for them for a while, and the recent final rule, CMS adopted a non-exhaustive list of non-primarily health-related items that do not meet the standard of having a reasonable expectation of improving and maintaining health. So again, if you're going to have a Medicare Advantage plan and you're going to have supplemental benefits built in, those supplemental benefits must meet definitions that they are improving or maintaining health outcomes, right? We're not just going to throw in some free stuff for the sake of free stuff to attract people to the plan. So a list of a few items that you cannot include would be alcohol, tobacco, cannabis products, non-healthy food, life insurance, hospital indemnity, funeral planning and expenses, procedures that are solely cosmetic in nature and do not extend upon traditional Medicare coverage. And then finally, broad membership programs inclusive of multiple unrelated services and discounts. Pretty simple. So again, a couple of things going on there. Let me just go back to that. Number 1, right? If you're going to have supplemental benefits, it's got to improve health outcomes. It's got to be a good benefit that's going to improve someone's health outcome. The other thing that's not listed in here is that reporting on those is much stricter. So CMS wants to see that, hey, are you adding, number 1, if you're adding supplemental benefits, I want to see that your patient panel, right, your client list, your enrollees, they are actually using them. So we want to see true proof of utilization and proof that they're improving health outcomes. And if as a carrier, you can't prove good utilization, good health outcomes, you might not be able to include supplemental benefits in your plans. So my understanding is that they have to reply back or report back. I believe it is after 6 months of plan effective dates that they have to report back and show utilization rates, health outcomes, et cetera, et cetera. Might be more than that, but I think it's 6 months. Number 5, insulin cost cap. Not a real big change here, right? There was very minimal change, but not much. They're still $35, right? If you got a covered insulin, it's on formulary, $35. The only thing that changed was within how they calculate the 25%. So depending on how that maximum fair price comes in, you will pay no more than $35, or if it's less, 25% of the maximum fair price established. So some people could pay certainly less than $35. Also new, zero cost sharing for adult vaccines. And this is under Part D vaccines, not Part B. We're talking about Part D vaccines. They are going to waive deductibles and all cost sharing. Those vaccines are the ones that are recommended by Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, ACIP. You can get a list of vaccines. It's included in this article. I will get this article in the group, but it will show you the list of all the vaccines under Part D that can be obtained at no cost. Finally, number 7, prior authorization for traditional Medicare is coming to 6 states next year. Yes, that's right. There's already been some level, a very minimal level of prior authorization in original Medicare, but they are expanding it and testing out some new stuff, and they're testing it in 6 specific states. I've talked about this a while back when they created it. We're going to follow up on a little bit more here. New Jersey, Ohio, Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, and Washington will begin using the wasteful and inappropriate service reduction model, aka the WISER model, to perform prior authorization evaluations. Medicare beneficiaries can be assured that AI will not be determining if a procedure is approved or denied. A human being will be reviewing the information, while technology will support the review process. Final decisions that a request for one of the selected services does not meet Medicare coverage requirements will be made by licensed clinicians, not machines. So there's a secondary article on this. Boom, 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 right over here that I found in Newsweek that goes through it in a little more detail. It is Newsweek, so you're going to get inundated with ads, but it does go through it a little bit deeper than that other one. More importantly, a couple things I didn't know. Where's it at? Was it number 1, the 6 states that are participating, they didn't opt in, they were chosen. And in other words, they were voluntold that you are going to participate in this, right? The agency reported that waste in healthcare represents 25% of healthcare spending in the U.S., with estimates that around $5.8 billion in Medicare spending in 2022 was spent on services with minimal benefit. While the aim of the model is to reduce spending by cutting back on wasteful care, some experts have voiced concern that the model may see necessary treatment being denied, potentially harming health outcomes. Right? But the model will bring in a prior authorization process relative to Medicare's existing process, meaning recipients will either have to submit prior authorization request for selected services, or their claim will be subject to prepayment medical review. But the model does not change Medicare coverage or payment criteria. 6 states, here it is, the 6 states picked to participate in the experimentation of this model were likely chosen because the administrative contractors that process Medicare claims for these states had already developed coverage policies for the services targeted by the WISER model. So you can go through the whole article if you want. It's pretty basic there. It's going to start next year, January 1st, and it's going to run actually for 2 3-year periods. So they're going to run this in 6 states, at least 6. It wouldn't surprise me if it expands, but they don't say anything about expanding it yet. They're just talking about these 6. But they say it will run from January 1, 2026 to December 31st, 2031. If the provider or supplier receives a non-affirmed decision because the item or service was determined to not be medically necessary, the healthcare provider will be required to notify the beneficiary and issue an advanced beneficiary notice of non-coverage prior to performing the item or service if it is expected that payment would be denied. Pretty simple. So they don't have the services on here. I have talked about those before. There is a specific list of services that will have to get this prior authorization. A lot of them are in nerve stimulation, as an example. So we can pull that again another time and look at it deeper, but this does kick off January 1, 2026 in 6 states. If you were in one of those 6, you very well might get a look-see at it. Moving along, also in Newsweek, I believe, right? No, this is in Kiplinger. The estimation for the Part B premium, it has not been announced yet, right? Part B premiums, Part A deductibles, none of that has been announced. They do have some projections. The only thing we know that is changing for fact when it comes to costs is the Part D deductible going from $590 to $615 that I just talked about. But Medicare premiums, Medicare deductibles are all projected to rise as well. We just don't know how much. But based on the trustees report, we do have some proposals or some predictions, I should say. Medicare premiums and deductibles, it says here, typically increase annually. Part B premiums are expected to rise 11.6% in 2026, nearly double the 6% jump in 2025. The report projects a $206.50 monthly premium for next year, up $21, and the largest Part B increase in dollar terms since 2022 when it jumped $21. The premium for Medicare Part D is different from the Part B premiums, of course, yada, yada, yada. There it is, a little further down. Boom, bang, pow. Yeah, here we go. So again, Part B premium projected to jump to $206.50. Part B deductible projected to jump to $288. They do not give any estimates on Part A deductible. So pretty soon we'll see. They usually knock those numbers out sometime in September, maybe even October. But we will see the Part B premiums and all of the deductibles, Part A deductibles, et cetera. Those costs will be coming out soon. But projections are, we're looking at about an 11% increase. Fairly simple. Speaking of higher costs, as if we didn't already know this was happening, study shows Medicare Part D changes could lead to higher cost for some beneficiaries. No kidding. I'm surprised it took them 2 years to write this article. They should have been able to write this article 2 years ago when I was talking about it, when a lot of other people were talking about it. But instead, they waited until just a week ago to publish it. A JAMA study published August 18th found that plan design changes by Medicare Part D insurers, particularly for Medicare Advantage plans, following passage of the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022, could lead to higher costs for some beneficiaries who do not reach the $2,000 out-of-pocket maximum for prescription drug coverage in 2025. Thanks for catching up to us, JAMA. We were 2 years ahead of you talking about this. We have definitely seen that. And here is some stats that they include in here. The study found, I'm just going to highlight that. The study found mean deductibles for MA plans decreased from $153 in 2019 to only $66 in 2024, before sharply increasing to $220 or $228 in 2025. So they're saying that, hey, MA plans, the Part D deductible had plummeted back in 2019 as low as $66 as last year, but it's going to jump on average of $228 for next year. Yes, we've already seen in some of the plan designs that the Part D deductible is going up in the MA plans, 100%, right? Additionally, the portion of MA beneficiaries with coinsurance, check this one out. The proportion of MA beneficiaries with coinsurance for preferred brand name drugs, it used to range from 0.8 to 2.5%. Last year or this year, the proportion of beneficiaries with coinsurance for preferred brand name drugs jumped all the way to 27.7%. I'm just going to let that one sit for a second for you. I'm going to give it to you one more time in case you're bad at math. The proportion of Medicare beneficiaries, right? So you have all these Medicare beneficiaries and you have a certain subset of them who had coinsurance for preferred brand name drugs. It was as low as 0.8% of the Medicare population had coinsurance on preferred brand name drugs, and as high as 2.5%. So out of 66 million Medicare beneficiaries, somewhere between 0.8% to 2.5% of that population was paying coinsurance on preferred brand name drugs. This year, 27% of Medicare beneficiaries in total are paying coinsurance on preferred brand name drugs. Why? Because the Inflation Reduction Act created that problem. It reshaped the entire Part D benefit design. All of the problems that we're experiencing right now in the MA landscape stem from that piece of legislation. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll take the Pepsi challenge against anybody who can tell me otherwise and do it with real data. But all of the data says that more beneficiaries are spending more money. Carriers are getting hammered because their share of the cost went up to astronomical percentages compared to what they used to have to do. And then they pretended to save money for beneficiaries with this $2,000 cap, knowing that new math is going to force costs to go up everywhere. It's going to force costs to go up in premiums. It's going to force costs to go up in deductibles. It's going to force costs to go up in co-insurances, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, it doesn't surprise me that that 100 times that we've seen a 100x increase in the proportion of beneficiaries that have coinsurance on preferred brand name drugs versus those that don't. Just took JAMA 2 years to put that together. Most of us that are paying attention put it together in about, I don't know, maybe 2 hours reading that final rule when it was created. But JAMA, thanks for catching up with us. It only took you 2 years to say what we've all been saying. Appreciate you. Moving on. Also, keeping with the trends, well, Medicare physician payment schedule is going down again, right? We already knew this. This was updated in the last couple of weeks. This article from AMA was dropped on the 21st. I'm not going to go through the whole article because we just don't have time, but I am just going to drop it right here. For the 5th straight year, by approximately 2.83%, the Medicare conversion factor under the 2025 Medicare physician payment schedule final rule is going down. So again, doctors are earning less money on their original Medicare reimbursements once again. It's almost as if everything I've ever said in my Future of Medicare talk just keeps coming true. Right, I gave that talk again for CE credits up in Dallas this last week. I talked about all of these trends, how they've been going on since 1997, and how it's a bipartisan effort, even though they'll lie to you on screen. And they'll say, no, it's the Republicans that want to privatize Medicare. No, it's the Democrats that want to privatize Medicare. No, they both do. 100%. It's a bipartisan effort. All of this stuff is. And they use it as a football to get votes. Anyway, moving on. Here we go. It's going to be a wild AEP. Insurers are pulling back on MA. And again, this is all because of what I just showed from that study from JAMA that I've been talking about for at least 2 to 3 years. Insurers are pulling back on MA. How does this affect the patients? Well, let's find out. Faced with higher utilization and changes to risk adjustment. You can say it's the higher utilization all you want. I don't fully buy it. Yes, I agree there is some higher utilization. We have a bigger population. We did have people that were delaying elective surgeries during COVID because they didn't want to go in for a knee surgery and get sick and die like my mom did. They wanted to do something different and hold it off. But so there is some higher utilization. But more importantly, it's the changes in risk adjustment models that is creating the downward pressure that is requiring carriers to pull back on Medicare Advantage. We're in a massive correction right now. And it's going to cause significant disruption for seniors, as it says here. So I'm just going to hit you with some numbers real quick. United Healthcare, the largest insurer, announced that more than 600,000 Medicare members will be affected by product exits. primarily in less managed products such as PPO offerings. 600,000. So that's 600,000 Medicare members that are either A, going to lose their plan altogether, or B, their plan's going to change to something that might be less attractive than what they're currently on. But that's just UHC, 600,000 members. Now, as I go through this, remember that every year, roughly 1 million-ish Medicare beneficiaries lose their plan, their Medicare Advantage plan, by no fault of their own, through plan exits, crosswalks, et cetera, right? It happens every year. It's just going to be a little bit bigger this year again, right? It's probably going to be close to 2 million people if I had to guess. Maybe a little higher even. We'll see. But United Healthcare is saying they expect more than 600,000. That's just UHC. Let's move on. Humana expects to shed 500,000 members. Aetna, meanwhile, may drop 10%. There's another 420. We're already up to 1.5 million. And we haven't gotten to Anthem, Elevance, Devoted. Well, Devoted will probably see more members because they're expanding into 9 new states. Right? But we have plenty of other carriers that are going to continue to shed people, Cigna, et cetera. These are the big 3 that are going to see the biggest. But right there, just between Humana, Aetna, United Healthcare, we are looking at a 1.5 million losing their plan, most likely, or being at least affected in some capacity. Cigna may have set the precedent by announcing in 2024 that it's exiting the MA market altogether. It's not really a fair statement. They sold their block of business, all of their MA plans, and they say exiting, but I think we all know that in the near future, we'll probably see Cigna go after Humana again. Wouldn't surprise me. Maybe they're going to wait a little bit. It's extremely disruptive. No kidding, it says there by Dr. Adam Brown. Goes on here, why are insurers pulling back on MA? Well, it kind of already stated it, and I hit it. But it says the single biggest factor causing insurers to retreat from Medicare Advantage is the unexpected increase in medical utilization cost. And that is definitely through risk adjustments, the changes, et cetera. You can go through this article some more, pretty simple. And then we'll get to the last one that I want to talk to you guys about and show off. Is this new, this just came out August 25th, yesterday, August 25th. This is an entire income and assets evaluation or analysis that Kaiser did based on 2024 data. It's strong. So if you're not already concerned that some of these higher costs that your Medicare beneficiaries are going to see is going to squeeze them a little harder next year, let's take a look at how much based on their income levels. I'm not going to go through every single detail in this article. I'm just going to skip to some of the highlights, like these 5 points right here. 1 in 4 Medicare beneficiaries, 16.5 million people, live on incomes below $24,600. Half of all Medicare beneficiaries lived on incomes below $43,000 per person. At the upper end of the income spectrum, the top 5% of Medicare beneficiaries lived on incomes above $170K, and 1% is around $370,000. But 25% of them, that's 1 in 4, are living on income below $24,600. That's $2K a month. 1 in 4 Medicare beneficiaries had savings below $18,950. So 25% of beneficiaries are living on less than $25K, and probably those same 25,000 beneficiaries, or very close to them, have savings of less than 1 year of their income available. Half of Medicare beneficiaries had savings below $100,000. And at the higher end of the distribution, the top 5% had savings above $1.7 million. 1 in 4 Medicare beneficiaries, again, 25%, had no income or no home equity at all. Now, that could mean that they don't own a home, number one. right? It doesn't mean that they own a home and it's maxed out. That just means that, hey, 25% had no home equity. So that could certainly be some that are at 100% LTV on their loan or their mortgage, which I doubt. I think it's more likely that they just don't even own a home to have home equity. Half of all Medicare beneficiaries had home equity below 128,000. The top 5% home equity above 886,000. Get you some pretty charts in here, right? Shows you exactly what I just said there. 25% had income below by 24.6. 50% is 43. That 50% is the median income. $43,200. Your average Medicare beneficiary makes about $43,000 a year. Shit, that's more than some first-year producers. That's not bad, I guess, huh? Per person estimates of income certainly varied by age, race, and ethnicity and gender, though nearly all beneficiaries access groups had at least some per capita income in 2024, in large part due to Social Security. You can look at it in a little different or more granular detail: under 65, over 65, 65 to 74, white, black, Hispanic, female, male, right? They tighten it up in some of the other areas here and so forth. Again, same thing on savings. They graph it all out. They get granular on the savings. Look at that, man. Per capita savings for Medicare beneficiaries in 2024, if you're under 65, $5,000. Wow. $5,250 is the average savings of a Medicare beneficiary that is receiving Medicare under age 65. If you're 85 or older, it's only $4,200. If you are black or Hispanic, your savings was as low as $1,100. Wow. That ain't much money. So you can cruise this a little deeper if you want. That goes to the home equity piece as well, just like I said. Matter of fact, let's look at that a little closer. Here's their granular. This is estimates of per capita home equity based, again, on age and ethnicity. So if you're under 65, you had $0 if you're on Medicare with home equity. Black, Hispanic, female, male, they have zeros here. The bottom quartile, as they say. Interesting. Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff, man. So that's, I don't mean to get you guys excited by telling you that, hey, your beneficiaries are broke and their costs are going up next year. I mean, that would definitely excite me, right? And I think we'd rather hear the opposite. The costs are staying around the same, but our beneficiaries are getting more money. We're finding real ways to save our beneficiaries. Like everything that I'm showing you. Yeah, I got 5 minutes. Everything that I'm showing you guys should technically piss you off because of the last 4 years. Just my opinion. Like the last 4 years of what's happened, and now you're seeing a lot more of the results of it. It should piss you off a little bit. But I know some of y'all are just going to vote for him again. Moving on. Hope y'all are having a great day. That is Tuesday training for today. In summary, the costs are going up. It's going to be a wild AEP. About 1.5 million beneficiaries are going to lose coverage altogether, at least on their MA plans. So we're going to have a lot of people that qualify for guarantee issue into Medicare supplements. You're going to have a lot of rural areas that had PPO plans that will no longer have PPO plans. And let's face it, like in a lot of those rural areas where there were those PPO plans, they weren't doing well anyway. I mean, why are they even there? Like if you can't build a network around it, you can't build it strong, and all it's going to do is put the beneficiary in a plan that pretty much no one accepts and has massive pre-authorization requirements and the carrier's losing money on it. Like, what's it doing there in the first place? But that's where we're at now. That's where we're at right now. We're in that space where we're going to see a massive correction. All the while, somehow, we managed to get an increase on the whole deal. So we're going to make more money, at least from a per application basis. But our beneficiaries and our carriers are getting absolutely obliterated right now in total, right? So we're seeing these massive peel back. Costs are going up for your beneficiaries. So you're going to have to work really hard this AEP. I hate to tell you that, but you're going to work really hard this AEP, not only to maintain your own book, but to try to grow a little bit and get some new members in your space. You're going to have to get really sharp with your marketing efforts, right? You're going to have to get really efficient with your retention efforts. How are you able to get to all your clients fast and let them know, hey, I've got you. Just please get on my calendar because my time is precious. So help me help you. And you're going to have to study your ass off probably and see where are some of the spots where you can really take advantage and shine. Because one thing is true, and I'm not trying to paint negative like, hey, the sky is falling. No, these are just challenges. And anytime there are challenges, there's going to be massive opportunities for agents who are willing to meet those challenges head on, right? It's definitely going to be a challenging AEP for us. We've lost some staff. We're adding some staff, but we've lost some experienced staff, unfortunately. We have a large book of people that we've got to get to and talk to and manage. So we're going to work extremely diligently, probably hire another VA maybe to jump in there and help us out. We brought another agent on yesterday that's going to be working with us to help us out. So I will do my best to keep you guys in tune. Up to date, up to speed. But we are right at the cusp of it, man, coming up to the end of August. I've always felt like September 1, right after Labor Day, is like go time. This is when I start getting out my ANOC information to my clients. So when I start making sure that everything that I want is ready from certifications, I've got ads that are pre-approved, or I've got ads that I'm ready to launch on October 1st, different things like that. Like I'm getting everything in place. All the pieces of the puzzle start to really come together through August and September 1, and do our best to make October 1 a smoking hot launch. But here we are, about 35 days to go. Get excited. It's going to be a fun one. I will see y'all next week. Have yourself an awesome, awesome day.